Chapter 13. Automobile Repossession. The collector from Santander called Gina at work. He demanded payment on her automobile that was no longer in her possession. Several weeks ago, while she and her children were asleep, a tow truck had come out and hauled away her sedan. So why was the loan company calling her now? How can I owe money? You took the car. Has it been sold? Yes, ma'am, but that right there is the problem. When you don't pay what you owe and were forced to sell it at auction, then the balance is your legal responsibility, he said in a forceful tone. Look, I'm at work now and can't talk. I'll call you later. Gina glanced around the office to see if anyone was listening. Just give me your bank account for automatic payment, and we'll be done here, he demanded. How much did you sell the car for? Gina asked. $4,000. Your balance owing is $6,248. You sold the car for $4,000 when the balance was over $6,000? Yes, ma'am, that is all it could get at auction. I don't have $6,000. If I did, I would have been able to make the payment. We'll take $600 a month, he said. I can't do that. I was sick for 2 months with COVID. On top of that, I had surgery, which further reduced my ability to work. Gina could feel her skin getting hot. That doesn't take away what you owe. Listen, I'm at work. I can't talk now. Give me your bank routing number, then we'll be done here. Gina could feel her blood pressure rising. She didn't need the stress, especially at work. She hung up the phone. The next day, the collector called again. And the next. He was hell-bent on getting money no matter what it took. He had a quota to meet, and he wasn't giving up until he got the money. Gina, who had been through a health crisis and was now juggling a job, helping her third grader do school online, due to classes being closed during the pandemic, and a baby. She reached out for help. She had already paid $20,000 on this car, and now the collector was asking for over $6,000 more. It wasn't worth what she'd paid. The interest rate on the auto loan was stupidly high. She had accepted this loan with Santander because 3 years prior, her credit score was 515, so she couldn't get a decent auto loan with a bank or credit union. When she became ill and tested positive for the coronavirus, she tried to work out a deal with Santander, but they wouldn't let her trade down for a lesser payment without a cosigner. She was stuck, too sick to work. She barely managed to keep the lights on and food on the table. The car payment had to slide. And then one morning she woke up to find that her car had disappeared from its parking space on the street. Not long after, the phone calls started at work, at home, demanding immediate money that she didn't have. If something like this happened to you, it is critical to know your legal rights and what your options may be. It is truly shocking the way some automobile lenders violate the law. They count on you not knowing, not ever finding out that they have illegally taken back your car, SUV, or truck. Then, these jerks sell your car to a low bidder at an auction without ever informing you beforehand or giving you the opportunity to buy back your car. That is also illegal. To add insult to injury, they send you a bill for the difference between what you owed and the price they got for it at auction. So now you have no transportation, a huge derogatory mark on your credit, and still owe them money. Something's gotta give. Let's talk about repo offenses to see if any of them apply to you, as they did for Gina. For starters, it was illegal for the creditor to call her at work. In addition, there were other violations in the way her repo was handled. I'm happy to tell you that Gina reached out to a credit attorney who not only got her credit report cleared, but also got the amount she owed changed to $0. Was the law violated while repossessing the vehicle? Obviously, you don't want to get so far behind on your payments that you put yourself in jeopardy of losing your transportation. Anytime you cannot make a payment, you need to call the lender and ask to work out a plan to lower your payments. They might refinance your loan into a longer term to lower the monthly payment or offer another solution. If no plan can be worked out and you are totally stuck and unable to pay, what do you do? Close your eyes and ignore the bill? No. Skip the payment and just hope something magical will happen? No. Just wait it out until they come out and take back the car, because you think you have no choice? No. All of those choices will lead to more trouble. First, call and ask if they have a deferment plan available for financial hardship. Deferment is when they postpone your payments for a certain number of months by adding those payments on to the end of the loan term. Another option is to drive the car to a reputable dealership, not Santander or other subprime car loan company. You explain that you need to trade in your vehicle for something with a much lower payment or no payment. You trade down. That way, you preserve your credit and your finances and save yourself a mountain of stress. Don't let your ego get in the way. Don't worry what people will say about your new older vehicle. It's not their place to judge. If they look at you with laughing eyes and say, "What happened to your nice ride?" answer with your head held high. Here are some things you might say. I'm taking a temporary break from the payments. With the price of gas and inflation, it made sense for me to make a change. You got a problem with that? I sold it. Because I wanted to. Period. Don't you worry about my car. You take care of your own car. It's important for you to know that even if you were behind on payments and the vehicle has already been repossessed, you still have rights. I am not an attorney, so this is not an attempt to give legal advice. It's information I gathered while doing research for this chapter. The following facts are from a presentation by attorney Christina Gill Roseman, Roseman Law Firm, LLC, and from licensed credit repair business owners. Any violation of the rules below is a possible case for a lawsuit, which opens the door for financial compensation and a reversal of any bad credit reporting. Again, no guarantee, but here are 3 rules that the car lender might have violated. 1. They cannot repossess without a default. Most states do not define default. Typically, it is 90 days of non-payment. However, your contract might be different. Some loan sharks consider the loan in default 1 day after a missed payment, so don't assume anything and read your contract. If your contract says non-payment of 60 days is a default, then they cannot repo your car on day 59. 2. The lender is liable for improper actions of the repo person. 3. They cannot breach the peace in conducting the repossession. Breaching the peace are things like threats of bodily injury, trespassing, opening a gate, opening a garage, repossession over objection by the owner, you. Did you notice that last one, repossession over objection by the owner? If you, the owner, place your hand on the vehicle and you say, "Don't take my car," or "Please leave my property now," then the repo guy must stop and leave your vehicle alone. Likewise, you cannot breach the peace by threatening, harassing, or doing bodily injury to the repo guy. 4. Did you have personal property inside your vehicle? Items such as jumper cables, tools, sunglasses, a blanket, a protein bar, and such? If so, they must give you an opportunity to retrieve your items. They cannot steal personal items belonging to you that happen to be inside the car. A violation of any of the above, in some states, has resulted in the owner owing $0 and the lender unable to collect any deficiency balance. You will need to consult with an attorney in your state to verify your rights where you reside. That's not all. After the vehicle is back in their possession, they must give notice according to law. 1. The lender must give at least 10 days notice prior of their intent to sell prior to the auction or sale. This gives you ample opportunity to buy back the vehicle. 2. The notice must identify the lender, the vehicle owner, and the vehicle itself. 3. The notice must tell how it will be sold or disposed of. If it is to be sold at public auction, they must include the time and place, so you can choose to attend. If it is to be sold by private sale, they must include the date after which the sale will occur. 4. You have the right to an accounting of the money so that you can see it is accurate and fair. Do not overlook this one. 5. The sale must be commercially reasonable. This means they can't put a bunch of miles on it between the time they repossessed it and are putting it up for sale. They can't tack on excessive fees. They can't hold the sale in a remote location, so no one will come except one low bidder who is their cousin. 6. They must recondition the vehicle prior to sale so that it looks attractive to a buyer. And another thing, if the lender cannot establish a reasonable sale, they can be held liable for damages, or else they cannot enforce a deficient claim against you. Meaning that if they can't sell it for a fair and reasonable price, that's not your fault, and they can't turn around and bill you for the difference. I think that's worth paying attention to. What if your beautiful SUV was worth $20,000 at the time they repossessed it, but then, due to their neglect of the items above, they undersold it for $6,000. Now they want to bill you for the $14,000 difference. Not allowed. If they fail to establish a reasonable sale, then that's on them. All of that is eye-opening, but I'm not done yet. Was the law violated during the initial financing? If your lender was an unethical shark with no moral compass, then you might have a claim against them even if the vehicle has already been repossessed. When you got your financing, did they violate one of these two elements of the Equal Credit Opportunity Act? ECOA is all about treating everyone in an equal and just manner. 1. They cannot discriminate at any stage of the financial transaction based on race, gender, religion, national origin, sex, marital state, age, or if you receive public assistance. 2. Suppose your credit was not good enough to receive optimal financing and they wrote your loan with a higher interest rate or cost. They are required to inform you of this and to explain why. For example, they must tell you that your credit score is low due to 10 late payments, and that is why your interest rate will be 3% higher than if you had perfect credit. Or that their own finance company cannot approve your loan, but the subprime lender Santander will do it for a high price. Usually, the salesperson comes back with a big smile as they announce, "Great news! I got you financing approval with Santander." They don't say, "Bad news, your financing is approved only with the subprime lender Santander, a company that had a large class action lawsuit against them for treating their customers unfairly, and by the way, their rates are terrible. Let me show you a less expensive car so your payment won't be ridiculous." There's more. They must follow the Truth in Lending Act. TILA is all about giving you truthful information, not tricking you into signing for a terrible loan that you don't even understand. 1. They must tell you the interest rate, payment, and terms of financing before you sign the loan contract. 2. They can't use an electronic signing device that prevents you from seeing all the terms. 3. They can't ask you to sign a document that has spaces left blank for them to fill in later. 4. They must provide accurate credit terms and cannot change them up later. 5. They must disclose if the purchase price of the vehicle is higher for someone doing financing as opposed to their advertised price of pay all cash. This means if the ad said the vehicle costs $23,400, they can't up the price to $25,000 because you're not paying all cash without first explaining that to you, giving you the opportunity to pay less for cash if you choose. Let's leave no stone unturned, no possibility unexplored. Here are 3 last possible ways to get out of car repo Hades. 1. Check to see if you had gap insurance. Gap insurance is an optional add-on that covers the amount you owe and what your vehicle is currently worth. They might have added gap to your contract without you being aware. If you did purchase gap insurance for the life of the loan and you lost your vehicle before the loan was done, then they might owe you a refund. Don't count on them offering it to you if you don't ask for it. 2. Check to see if you had a warranty. As in number 1 above, they might owe you a refund. 3. Now for a possible big bomb, compare contracts. Call the auto lender and ask for a copy of the contract. Then open your copy of the contract and compare the two. Unscrupulous car salespeople have been known to create one contract for the buyer and another one for their files. This, of course, is fraud. An example of contract fraud is when your contract says the car costs $20,000 with no money down. The lender's contract in their files might say the car cost $24,000 with $4,000 down. They wrote it up that way to make it look like you were providing a 20% down payment so that the loan would be approved. This is a lot of information to digest. If you were the victim of illegal action by the auto lender, and by the auto lender, I mean either the dealership that sold you the auto or the finance company, then you are not the first nor the only victim. There have been lawsuits that got justice for good people who were taken advantage of, and there will be more in the future. If you are in Michigan, Ohio, Pennsylvania, or West Virginia, you can contact a consumer advocate expert attorney. For all states, contact the National Association of Consumer Advocates at consumeradvocates.org. This website has a wealth of information for consumers about consumer rights. If your repo was legal, what can you do? Sadly, many good people purchased a vehicle that was too expensive for their budget, or who lost their incomes, or who had a bona fide emergency that resulted in their car being repossessed. If your dealership and loan company did everything by the book, sold the car, and now you owe several $1,000s, you are not alone. It happens. Motor vehicles usually decrease in value, especially when purchased brand new. There is no magic wand to wave over the credit report to get it to disappear. Sometimes, there is a loophole for a factual challenge. As explained in other chapters, sometimes credit repair specialists see an error in the reporting of the account. It might be a false account number, date of delinquency, or other details. Credit reporting must be 100% correct and verifiable. If not, you have grounds to have it deleted, or corrected, if you prefer. Having a debt removed from your credit report does not mean you no longer owe money, but it will help your credit profile and credit score. However, a warning. If you owe a large balance on an auto repo and no one is contacting you for payment, then sometimes it is best to leave the sleeping giant alone. If you fire off a dispute letter, that might wake them up to start collection action against you. If you're prepared to settle and pay immediately, and that's what you want to do, then proceed. If not, then don't poke the bear. Take time to consider this carefully before you send any letters. If you receive notice of a pending lawsuit, you must take immediate action. Never, ever ignore a notification for being sued in court. That's what they want you to do, ignore the notice so that they automatically win when you fail to show up. In some states, their next step is to seize money out of your paycheck or bank account. That is called garnishing wages or garnishment. For states do not allow garnishment, they are Pennsylvania, North Carolina, South Carolina, and Texas. You must not let it get that far. I highly recommend you call a local attorney for advice. You can locate an attorney at findlaw.com or by doing a Google search. Gather all your paperwork, loan agreement, any repo notices, income documentation or pay stubs, and a current bank statement. So you are prepared to give the attorney what is called for. The best course of action most of the time is to work out a settlement agreement and avoid court. An attorney can help you with that. If the amount owed is affordable and you want to handle it yourself and negotiate a lower payoff, then have your proof of income handy. You want to show the opposing attorney that you truly cannot afford to pay all they are asking if they ask for documentation. While you are negotiating the payoff amount, you also want to include an agreement that upon receipt of funds, they will remove the derogatory account from your credit report. Pay for delete is the best way to have the repo removed at this point, because when the creditor or the creditor's attorney instructs Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion to delete it, then it is guaranteed to be done. In your negotiation, be professional, polite, and well prepared. I would say something like, I want to pay to the best of my ability, but my credit report is extremely important to me, so we need to talk about that in conjunction with the payment. You can also add a true and genuine reason as to why you were unable to maintain the car payment, such as I suffered from financial hardship due to my company closing during the pandemic, or my family member died, leaving me with a huge burden. Everything you say must be true and able to be backed up. I would also say, I can send you verification of this, if that would help. Documentation for a loss of income could be any or all of the following: letter of notification or email from your employer stating a reduction in hours/income. Screenshot of the notification on the website, along with the website link. Public news about the company closing or reducing staff, such as a newspaper article. Copy of your pay stub showing the reduction in pay. Documentation for a medical or death hardship could be any or all of the following: doctor or hospital bills. Obituary or announcement of death on a website. When writing a letter that includes a hardship reason, definitely include the documentation to verify your claims, because it greatly increases your chance of success, and it saves you the time and expense of writing a second letter if the first one is not accepted. On the other hand, if you can afford to pay in full and do not have documentation to show otherwise, but you don't like the idea of all the extra profit they've built into the payoff, then by all means, negotiate a settlement without documentation. You can say something truthful like, "I find the balance of $9,000 is unworkable for me, but I can offer $3,550 as a lump sum payment with an agreement that it will be deleted from my credit report when you receive the funds." That will start the conversation, and then see how it goes from there. Here is a 4-step plan if your auto repossession was handled legally. First step, check the statute of limitations. You can go to creditinfocenter.com when facing an old debt. The first step is to check the statute of limitations for collecting on a debt in your state. The statute of limitations is not the same as the time period for reporting to the credit bureaus. The credit bureaus are regulated by federal law. The statute of limitations is regulated by state law. In some states, the statute of limitations for collecting on a debt is much shorter than reporting the information to the credit bureaus, but in some states, it is longer. Here is an alphabetical list by state as of January 2021. You can check with your state attorney general to see if the time has changed. 3-year statute of limitations: Alaska, Delaware, Maryland, Mississippi, New Hampshire, North Carolina, and South Carolina. 4-year statute of limitations: California, Pennsylvania, and Texas. 5-year statute of limitations: Arkansas, Florida, Idaho, Kansas, Nebraska, Oklahoma, and Virginia. 6-year statute of limitations: Alabama, Arizona, Colorado, Connecticut, Georgia, Hawaii, Indiana, Maine, Massachusetts, Michigan, Minnesota, Nevada, New Jersey, New Mexico, New York, North Dakota, Oregon, South Dakota, Tennessee, Utah, Vermont, Washington, and Wisconsin. 8-year statute of limitations: Montana and Ohio. 10-year statute of limitations: Illinois, Iowa, Kentucky, Louisiana, Missouri, Rhode Island, West Virginia, and Wyoming. You might ask, if they can't force me to pay, do I have to pay? That becomes a question of common sense and morals. Legally, no one can make you pay. Still, it will stay on your credit report until 7 years from the date of first late payment or from the date of last activity if you updated it with a new agreement. Some people believe it is the fair and honest thing to pay. Some people believe they were sold a lemon of a car or that they have already paid more than the vehicle was worth due to the outrageous interest charge, and therefore, the company has profited enough at their expense. Some people simply do not have the means to pay anymore, even if they wish they could. At this point, you need to look at the situation, at your credit report and your finances, and then choose for yourself what you will do. If you're flat broke, unemployed or underemployed, and don't own real estate they can lien, then you might just tell them, "I have no money, no job, and no assets. I am uncollectible. File this away in your dead file and don't waste your time by contacting me again." Then, when they contact you again 6 months later, ignore them. There's nothing legally they can do to hurt you. On the other hand, if you have a good job, if you have money in the bank, and if you want to get it off your credit report, then you might want to negotiate a settlement agreement to pay less than the full balance, but it must also include a statement saying they will delete it with the credit bureaus upon receipt of payment. You want a pay for deletion letter so that your credit score improves. You will need an agreement in writing. In the world of collections, verbal agreements are nothing more than jokes. There are collection companies that buy expired debts. A large national collection company will sell a bundle of expired loan notes to a smaller company, perhaps a single proprietor who started a business in his dining room after being released from prison, for a penny on the dollar. If you'd like to read about a former armed robber and a former banking executive who teamed up to buy debts and make a small fortune, read Jake Halpern's book, Bad Paper: Inside the Secret World of Debt Collectors. What date starts the statute of limitations? This is an important question to answer, because what you think is the start date might not be the legal start date at all. The statute of limitations clock starts on the date of last activity. Most often, that is the date you made the last car or credit card payment. However, if you made a payment to the collector later, then they have tricked you into restarting the date. Let's say the last payment you made on your car loan was for January 2021. In November, a collector calls and says they're going to garnish your wages if you don't make at least one payment, so you send a check. Now you have reset the clock by 11 months, giving the creditor almost an extra year in which to sue you. But wait, there's more. If you so much as acknowledge the debt is yours and agree to pay, the clock is reset, even if you don't ever actually get around to making that payment. So, be very careful about what you say on a recorded line or write in an email. I suggest that you record your call so they can't claim you acknowledged the debt when you didn't. If you're using email, write it, read it, let it simmer for a few hours or overnight, reread, then send. Prevent a zombie auto loan from coming back. If you live in Illinois or another state that allows 10 years for the statute of limitations and had a car repossessed in 2015, the creditor has until 2025 to sue you. But if you agreed to a payment plan in 2016, now they have until 2026 to sue you. If you made one payment in 2017, now they have until 2027 to sue you. When your car is gone and you haven't heard from anyone for 9 years, you've probably forgotten all about the incident. But then on the 11th month of the 9th year, a collector could sue you for the balance owed. If you don't show up in court because you're busy or you don't take it that seriously, they automatically win. According to allowable law, this could start the process of automatically withdrawing money from your paycheck or bank account. When you have had an auto repossessed, it is not out of sight, out of mind. Be mindful about what is legal in your state as well as what federal law allows regarding your credit report. It's also a good idea to keep your paperwork to show your payment dates for 10 years. Second step: check for 10 legal exceptions a collector might yell, threaten, persuade with flattery, and use every script in the book to get you to pay when the reality is that they have no actual legal grounds to follow through. Here are some circumstances for which a collector cannot force you to pay for a deficiency. 1. They have not produced a copy of the signed contract to verify that the debt belongs to you. 2. The contract does not state that the creditor has the right to sue you for a deficiency in the case of a repossession. 3. The collector is not the original creditor and they have not produced documentation stating the contract was assigned to them. 4. The creditor failed to give you written notification of your right to redeem the car, with the time frame for doing so. 5. The creditor failed to give you written notice of their intent to sell the car, including the date, time, and location of the sale. In Gina's case, wouldn't it make more sense for her to buy the car back for $4,000 than to lose the car and owe $6,248? 6. They prevented you from participating in the auction with the opportunity to buy the car back. 7. They refused to accept your payment when you requested to reinstate the loan, when they still had the vehicle in their possession. 8. They didn't provide a description of the purported deficiency balance, including a description of any fees, taxes, and additional charges. 9. They sold the car privately for a price that was below what they could have gotten at a public auction. Like if they sold it to a friend or family member for a steal of a deal. 10. They did not resell the car, but kept it, and then tried to come after you for more money. That is called double recovery, and it is illegal. Regarding any of the above items, confirm with an attorney in your state. I am not an attorney, nor is this book to be regarded as legal advice. It is information you can consider with an attorney who is familiar with the laws in your state. Remember, repo laws vary according to state. What if your state prohibits deficiency judgments on automobile loans? What if the creditor violated other debt collection laws? What if you could countersue and win? Many attorneys offer a free consultation, and I recommend taking advantage of that service. To find an attorney in your area, you can use a website such as americanbar.org. LegalMatch.com, you can search on Yelp for a debt attorney in your zip code and read reviews. Third step, check if you are judgment-proof. I know an 82-year-old who received a letter-threatening lawsuit and judgment. He was scared half to death of becoming homeless at his age. But he need not have worried, he was judgment-proof. The best course of action for him was to do nothing, because there was nothing the collector could do. Make a quick phone call to an attorney's office to see if you are exempt from a judgment. Most likely, you are judgment-proof if your income is from public assistance or Social Security, your earnings are in the poverty zone, you don't own valuable personal property that you could sell to take care of the debt, and you don't own real estate. Also, if you are the head of household responsible for providing for a family, you might have other legal protections. Don't assume anything, be smart by speaking with an attorney who knows the laws in your state. Fourth step, check for previous lawsuits against the creditor or lender. On January 13, 2021, a website was set up. Welcome to the Santander Multi-State Subprime Auto Lending Informational website. On this website, it states the terms of a loan forgiveness and a deficiency waiver. This was the result of a class action lawsuit against Santander. If, like Gina at the beginning of this chapter, you had an auto loan with this company that went bad, check the site to see if the parameters apply to you. See if you are in one of the states where Santander agreed not to post late payments or repossessions to the credit bureaus. Even if you are not in a state that was included in the lawsuit, you can still dispute, according to one credit repair attorney, thecreditrepairshop.com. His experience shows that Santander is willing to negotiate and cooperate rather than risk yet another legal hassle. For instance, in August 2022, there was another class action lawsuit against Santander, this time for charging an illegal convenience fee when customers paid their bill online or by phone. The settlement for that was $800,000. Was your financing through a different lender? Do an online search for the name of the lender with the word lawsuit or settlement. Santander isn't the only creditor that has settled for terms favorable to debtors who were victims of alleged unscrupulous and fraudulent lending practices. If you are unable to do this, an attorney who specializes in helping consumers with credit and debt can advise you. Coming up next, what you need to know.